Okay. All right, hang tight. Let's do this one more game. Sorry, Loki. For some reason, StreamYard was just acting a fool. I don't know what was going on. I think we figured it out. All right, let me see if I can set this biznatch up. Yeah, third time's the charm, really. All right, we have a guest.
What's going on?
What up?
Do we have audio today?
Oh, say again?
I hear you.
Do we have audio?
We have audio.
All right, cool.
Dude, this is so crazy. It's like Juan got inside of our StreamYard.
Juan has gotten inside of a few people from what I've heard.
Yeah. Takes Juan to know one.
Yeah. That was an easy one, dude. That was an easy one. Just make sure you take the morning after pill. It's only like $50. What my mistress says.
Can you believe it? They're 60 now.
What?
And you used to have an adult present. Now they just sell them to minors. They just Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Why wasn't this available when I was young? I would have been so much more prolific with my shit.
No.
I would have probably finally fucking caught an official STD. I was in the Navy, never caught an STD in my fucking life. But if that shit would have been prevalent, yeah, I'm pretty sure I would have caught one.
Yeah.
Pretty good streak. Not bad.
All right.
Do we have Mr. Ivan signing in?
I don't have any additional guests. Maybe his feet got cold. Is this how you say
his feet didn't get cold. He was
how you say
making himself a cup of coffee.
Okay.
Trying to wake up.
Well, we can have a conversation beforehand.
Yeah. Let's start with if I may, White Buffalo. I heard you were Dugan's nephew.
Long lost, estranged nephew. Yes.
Just kidding. Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Buffalo.
Person who's 29 years old, relatively young man. Been paying attention to what's going on over the past decade in regards to society, things changing, old ways going out the window, new ways coming in. That is, basically like bad is good, good is bad. They're flipping the whole paradigm, and basically what our parents had learned and try to teach us. They flip that on its head. We've been paying attention to that. What else? Just a neighbor, a friend, a brother, a dad, just someone who wants to create change, push change, and be that leverage to add change.
Look at the mute button and click the mute button. I think we're getting a lot of feedback from you right now. You just signed on.
Mm-hmm.
Hello? Mr. Ivan, are you still there? All right, there we go. Oh, no more echo right now. All right. So basically what we're going to have to do is if you're not talking, hit the mute button. And whenever you want to interject, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt. We have no problem with that. Sometimes we'll say, hey, let me just finish my thought and we'll go from there. Or sometimes it's whatever. And yeah, you know what? No problem. I shouldn't even been freaking going on a rant. But one thing, let me introduce everybody here to Mr. White Buffalo. He was our guinea pig for the podcast and the live stream. He was in here before anybody else, and he's been never recognized as a guest or a cornerstone of the podcast or the live stream. So we want to give him a shout out. I know him from years back. He's more of a conspiracy theorist than anything else, but he has a open mind and he's understanding the things that we keep on saying. And one thing that I've told him from time to time again, stop focusing on everything you keep on hearing. The only thing you need to focus on is your family, improving yourself, your independence. And then when the power, electricity, water, cell phones, communication, radio, all that goes out, now you can focus on everything that you've been thinking about, but keep a steady mind. So on that, let me introduce Mr. Ivan. Mr. Ivan, can you give us a little bio on you, man? We're kind of curious. From what I understand, you are a corrections officer, or you're somebody who waterboards people in Guantanamo Bay. I forget. I get my emails confused.
Oh man, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
All right, perfect. Well, right now I am a corrections officer. Probably best if we don't talk about where. No, I don't do any waterboarding. Not as far as I've ever known. I mean, only recreationally. You know, I have worked in jail and prison. I've been on emergency response teams. Oh man, I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I am a college dropout, and that's about all I got about me. I've been watching.
Are you former military or anything?
No, not former military. I've
Former
got it in the
law
family,
enforcement?
Nope. Well, just corrections.
Oh, okay. All right. So, all right. I'm just trying to fill
Yeah.
everybody else in so everybody else understands. I'm sorry for interrupting. You were saying
You're
you found
okay.
out about Dugan or us or whatever you're going to say. I'm sorry, man.
Oh man. I think I've been watching Carnicon since about 2014. A lot of late nights that he was present for, you know, at least on the computer screen. I do carry all of my AKs around in a duffel bag. No getting around that. And I would almost hold him personally responsible for an obsession there. I do love them quite a bit.
Did you hear what he said when we had CRS on?
Which part?
CRS asked, what do you prefer, AK or AR? And Dugan
Yeah, he said AR.
He said, I love the AKs back when they were $300, but now that they're
Yep.
800 plus, fuck it, man. AR all day.
And you know what? That's an absolutely fair point, because I can tell you from experience, from having paid way too much money for certain AKs, paying way too much money for having parts kits built. You know, with guns, it's very easy to get caught up in the same cycle of consumerism that you would with anything else. And you really need to be rational about your purchases, and you need to be able to look at them for what they are, which is tools. And if you have the disposable income to get that collectible thing that you want, or that thing that scratches that itch, you know what? It's a free country, and that's great. But at the end of the day, people spend way too much time and energy chasing the dragon of that next high of buying something.
Let me ask you a quick question. For the AK, you said built together a parts kit. Are you talking about bending and rolling the sheet metal receiver?
You know, most of the time when I've had parts kits done, I've never built them up myself. I've paid to have them built, or I've paid to have them sourced.
What does it typically cost to have one of those built? I mean, I know what ARs and other platforms cost to be built, but AK I always hear is still cheap. But every time I hear somebody give me a price on them building one, or somebody building one like a shop, a legitimate shop, so it's legal to be able to buy it off them, I keep on hearing ridiculous pricing.
It's going to be ridiculous right now because everything is. And when the COVID restrictions came through, that limited import and export from a lot of different places because a lot of European countries who still have kits or a lot of places overseas, they stopped shipping, warehouses closed, and so stuff stopped hitting the market. And the same kind of scarcity that hit the gun market for everything else, that also hit the gun market for AK parts kits. And so I would say you'd have to go back 2 or 3 years to see even slightly reasonable parts kits prices. But I'll tell you, 2 years ago, I mean, tracking down an original barrel parts kit, you were still looking at $400 for the kit. And I saw Shall Not's comment, $1,000 Romy kits, and I sort of share the indignation that I felt from that comment. It's shenanigans.
Hey, I'm gonna throw myself on mute. I know Dark has a lot to comment and chit chat on this subject more than I would. So I'm gonna put myself on mute, and I'm gonna let you and Dark, or I'm gonna let Dark ask you a question, or we'll go from there.
So my first question, I'm just kidding. So yeah, no, I originally kind of went with, there is a prophetic gentleman by the name of Snoop Dogg that said, I got about 50 guns and I love all of them the same. Bang, bang. But I've kind of grown out of love with some of my AKs because of just how, affordable, available, and, reliable ARs are. So I'd say I got an equal amount of both. I do have a Gucci AK, I'll call it, an SLR 106 UR in 5.56.
I have an SLR 104 UR, and it still has the big old proboscis on it. I'm waiting on a Wolverine to come back before I e-file.
Yeah, mine's 8.3 inch. Chopped her down legally, got a Form 1 and all that. But no, I agree. Like, there's been a big difference. Like, I used to hit AK Builder, but it just seemed like it was punch and rivets. I think the cheapest kit that I had built was around $300 when I got a mostly damaged Wasser that I got built into an AMD 65. But now
I can't use a Harbor Freight rivet gun, like pop rivets, to make an AK?
Well, sure, you can use a Harbor Freight rivet press, but I wouldn't do the rivet gun.
Yeah, you could use you could do a screw build. If
no, stop. No,
I'm just kidding.
It hurts.
So, did the life of a corrections officer get you into AKs? You bought one and cram in your mouth one night?
It kind of did, in that we always had guns growing up. Dad always had them. I didn't start buying my own until I got into corrections and I started doing the qualifications.
Can I ask you a question before we go on any further with that?
Sure.
You said your dad had the guns. We don't need to know if you have brothers or sisters, anything else like that. But if your dad had the guns, and I'm assuming you were in a rural area, I'm assuming, did he teach you gun safety? Did he teach you to hunt, shoot with you, anything else like that? Just kind of curious on what your firearms upbringing was.
Pretty much all the above. Hunting, firearm safety. I think his first and the only really official firearms rule that he ever really brought up was never pointed at anything that you do not intend to destroy. And so the other three came in later in formal training, but that was pretty much, there was no finger off the trigger. There's none of that stuff. That was the rule. And so it kind of covered all the bases because, I don't want to destroy anything else right now, so I'm not going to point it at anything. But it was yep.
No, I was just gonna say I'm working with my 4-year-old right now. I noticed that when doing a build, I had a bunch of Glock lower receivers out, and one of them was complete. And this was when she was like 2.5. She ran up and it was just a lower receiver with a trigger kit in it, and grabbed it and pulled the trigger. And I was like, oh my, just instinctually, that's what she did. Without knowing guns, understanding guns, and being that young. So I was like, okay, how am I going to handle this? So for the last like year and a half, I've been telling her, I kind of switched up my my little speech, and I'm like, okay, so we call them pow pals, and we say, like, if you see a pow pal, what do? You stop, you freeze, you don't touch it, you get an adult, get mommy or daddy, whatever. But what I started adding was, if you want to see mommy or daddy's pow pow, you ask me, and then I'll make it safe and let you see it. And I've been letting her handle them, and it's been the only opportunity that I've had to teach her things like, you know, just the bare minimum of gun safety. The first thing she did was turn around and point it at me. I was like, oh, you know.
For me, like
safe now.
Most of the firearm safety came in so early. You know, it's like, why are you polite in a restaurant? Well, when you were a little kid, you know, if you were impolite in the restaurant, your mom drug you back to the bathroom and paddled you, you know? So like these things happen so early that I can't really remember. You know, I just, as far as I know, I always knew you don't pick it up. You don't do stuff you're not supposed to do with a gun. You just don't do that. You know, it happened. It was all so early in my formative memory. It's like, it's I don't remember being trained.
And that's the best time to teach children, is when they're super young and establish, you know, the severity of what it is and what it can do. You know, years and years and years ago, I actually had to demonstrate and scare the shit out of my friends, to be able to let them know, always make sure it's clear, make sure that, you know, there's nothing in the chamber, make sure you keep your finger off the trigger, all this other stuff. But one thing I always try to bring up to people is there was a point in time, and it was actually not that long ago, where you sent off your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid with a .62 caliber musket or a 50 caliber musket to go out there and shoot an elk or a moose or a deer, to be able to bring it home because your dad's working the land, your mom's tending to the crops, your sister's churning butter or doing chores or this or that. Everybody had a purpose, and if you didn't bring food, people would starve, people would get, you know, there would be issues involved. But that also instilled the fact that you didn't go around like an idiot, and you knew what that could do. If you know it can drop a 1,000-pound freaking moose, yeah, I'm pretty sure that 150-pound man that you point that musket at will drop even quicker. So, you know, there was a time when, you know, we had kids under double digits going out there with firearms to be able to hunt and, you know, do what they had to do to be able to help out their family. And we're actually not too far away from getting back to a point in period where we might end up coming to that point again. I mean, do you see it like that?
Well,
I mean,
in the Great Depression, white-tailed deer almost went extinct in the United States.
Yep. And
mostly because of that.
Guess what? If we have some crazy shit happening within like the next 5 years, and people are out of food, water, this and that, we're not going to see a gray squirrel for like the rest of our lives. That'll be an endangered species.
Shit, it's gonna be iguana. It's gonna be everything.
Iguana, we'll never get rid of them. We'll never get rid of them.
I'm out here next to the Everglades in South Florida, so I'm smelling alligator pussy from my backyard, like legit. I got a 4-year-old too, and I was never raised with my father, and guns was always that thing behind that glass door that I got to look at that I can't touch. So growing up, I was always having anxiety to get to a gun. About 18, I purchased my first one, which is a 22 long rifle, and served me well. Ruger 1022 long rifle, very well. I'm working on a Glock build right now. I'm waiting to get my barrel and my slide, and I'll start working on that from a P80 kit. Very eager to get started on that and learn how to do the intricacies of building. And I also have a 4-year-old and talking about the gun safety and stuff. You know, I got him Nerf guns, so he understands what a gun is, Call of Duty. He sees that, you know, action movies and all the other stuff. And being in South Florida, I happen to be, you know, a distance away from that Parkland shooting. So it's just past Valentine's Day, and that was, you know, a big thing again down here. And him being 4 years old, I want to take him out to a range or some private land and like bust open a watermelon in front of him at a safe distance, though, so he can understand what the hell a gun does.
Hey, I will suggest a 22 with eggs. A 22 with eggs. If you hit a watermelon, you don't see much, but if you hit an egg with a 22, and
well, I'm going to use the AR.
A lot of
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's actually not that.
I want to do it with my AR, and then
that works.
I kind of want to do 5 years old for him to shoot his first gun, so he kind of understands. Some people say that's too young, to each their own, whatever.
Work him up
but
on
I kind of
the
want
22
him.
is what I would say. Work him up on the 22, getting comfortable with that, and at least adequate with that, where he can point and shoot something within 20 feet away, and then you know, after a year, then work him onto an AR. I'm not saying that you can't get him on an AR right away, but just for because I've seen a lot of people, they put an AR in someone's hands and they were shooting 22s. Yeah, it's barely any more kick than a 22, but the concussion and the blast and the sound makes it sound like a freaking, you know, like a 25 mic going off. If you've never had a rifle go off. But
other thing you can do
this. Just really quickly, I say this, like a lot of people will comment on, you know, the right time to, you know, bring firearms into a child's life. And there isn't a specific age, right? It depends on their maturity level, their understanding of it, their exposure. Like there's so many different variables. But just to switch topics really quickly, I want to go back to Ivan. You kind of like we started to touch on your like perception of the world as it is right now. Where do you think we are right now, and where do you think we're headed? And I also want to hear about your life as a CEO.
Well, we got big problems is the simplest way that I can put that. Everything that you see, at least in this country right now, is practically a facade, right? So there was a time when, where I live in kind of an older historic little town, and we have a lot of almost colonial era houses, like brick buildings and everything. And you see very adaptive skill in the masonry of these buildings. These were buildings that were built with care and attention, sometimes as far away off as like 250 years ago. And they're still standing. They've been renovated. They're still being lived in. Now, if you drive through a suburb, you don't see masonry buildings anymore. You see a timber frame house, and you might have a brick facade on the front of it. And that's just one example, but it's pretty indicative of what's been happening here in the United States and across every developed nation for, I want to say, probably the last 300 years. And you're being told that what you're getting is of higher quality and is a better value for you, but it's more expensive. It's of drastically lower quality, and it has problems, and it's not going to last. And so you see this like jokes about American manufactured cars over the past 20 years. You see everything's made out of plastic now. You're paying between $50,000 and $75,000 for a truck that's mostly plastic. You know, I know a guy who had a truck. It was a 2018, and in 2019 it got totaled because of bad sensors. It came from the factory. It got totaled because it had computer parts that didn't function correctly. And so this problem has permeated almost every facet of our society. It permeates the criminal justice system. You're being told that the criminal justice system is a functioning body, right? That your criminal justice system happens in courtrooms, where fair and speedy trials occur. your criminal justice system happens on the streets, where you have police officers who interact with the public professionally and kindly and with human dignity. And that doesn't happen. And on top of it all, your criminal justice system is almost totally in correctional facilities, where there is pervasive violence, sexual abuse, incidences of torture, and it's a lie. What you're being sold as justice is really just taking people and throwing them away because they're disposable and locking them up for 10, 15, 20 years. And if you're only locking them up for 3 to 5 years, then guess what? They're going to come back out and they're going to be better criminals than ever before. And they're going to go right back because you put them in jail with a bunch of other criminals who taught them how to be better criminals, because that's what they had to do to make it in the correction system.
Ivan, one thing that I've heard, and I know it's a lot worse with the private prison system, but one thing that I'm on the understanding of is what it comes down to: somebody going to jail, prison, whatever, and they're supposed to be getting reformed when they used to be able to get a GED or work on trade schools. And I know certain prisons, around the country may allow those certain programs still to exist. But the one thing that has always made me laugh is what they charge to house an inmate for 1 year. And typically, most of these people, let's just say, I think in the standard prison system, it's around $30,000, and for private prison, it's like up to like $45,000, $55,000 per inmate. Most of these people never even make that much.
Is generally what's considered what it costs the state entity to house, feed, and clothe that individual for a year, and also to provide the medical care for them, which is probably the biggest thing.
Now, I've heard a lot of people going to jail just for medical care because they have nothing else to live for, and medical care
that happens.
For three hots and a cot.
That happens a lot with like homeless people, right? And the other problem is that it is very difficult to lump every corrections department in the United States into the same boat, just like it's that'd be like calling every police department, sheriff's department, and federal law enforcement agency the same, like the cops, right? It's kind of a misnomer, because all of these different agencies have different policies, different SOPs, different states have different constitutions that they follow. People have different rights in different places. So
some are better than others, but at the same time, even the ones that are better than others, it depends on the staff. Even if it's a police officer or in the corrections facility, I'm pretty sure you've seen other CEOs in there that have done some really stupid shit. And
absolutely.
Has escalated things.
A lot of that comes from a how do I put this? So basically, every prison and every jail in the United States is teetering on the brink of disaster, simply because they can't keep up with their own staffing needs, right? So, and on a brief sidebar, most states do not have private prisons. Only a few do, and they are horrible, and they should not exist. But that's a different conversation. So, just like a lot of fields of public service, corrections is really struggling to find people to work there. And that's pretty obvious. You know, most people don't want to go to jail in the first place, much less be there 8 hours a day to maybe 16 hours a day for an entire career, right? So what happens when nobody wants to work there is, at first you might have programs like merit raise increases or good retirement and good wages, but you have certain standards that you have to meet to get that job, right? You have to pass criminal background checks. You have to take basic tests, right? You need to be able to read and write because you have reports to write. You have to be able to do math because you need to be able to count, like physically count offenders or inmates or whatever you're going to call them. Now, when nobody wants to work there and you end up holding entire shifts over for a full 16-hour shift every day that they come into work, this leads to a staff shortage. Now, when you have a staff shortage, You cannot open up housing units. You can't operate the jail like it's supposed to be operating. So inmates can't come out for the rec time that they're supposed to have because of emergency staffing shortages. This causes conflicts with the inmates. This leads to violence. This leads to riots. This leads to bad things down the road. So yeah, we got problems. And then on top of that, the administration says, okay, well, we just had a riot because we didn't have enough staff. Obviously, we're going to have to lower our standards. Well, they lower the standards. Let's say they lower the age of hiring. You know, some places hire 19-year-olds to come work in prison or come work in jail, right? You remember yourself as a 19-year-old. There's a reason they don't let cops be cops until they're 21, right? Yeah, it's no good. So they bring those folks in. Guess what? That causes altercations with the inmates because even, you know, when I came into it, when I was in my early 20s and started this line of work, like I was immature and I got checked, and I was really lucky that I had a good command staff who, you know, took me aside and set me straight. But that takes a lot of effort on their part, and there's a finite amount of effort that any person can put into things, right? And eventually the good staff, they get tired of it, they retire and leave, and all you're left with are a bunch of jackalopes who don't know what they're doing.
I 100% agree with you on that. And what you're starting to talk about, I kind of want to dive in deeper. Obviously, there's people that are going to jail. I don't know if you're maximum security or, you know, light level, medium. I don't know the rankings, but I would assume still, even in a, you know, lighter security kind of prison or jail, you still have issues. And
where I'm at right now, I work with everybody.
So one thing I want to ask, though,
minimum,
is
maximum, whichever, doesn't matter.
The one thing I want to ask is if you talk to somebody, typically like an officer on the street, where they're trying to control the situation and they're get the fuck down right now, screaming. They're not de-escalating. They're just trying to show force of violence and force of action to be able to try to maintain the situation. Now, I know I've seen a lot of movies where prison guards, you know, kind of do the same thing. And I have, you know, family and friends that were in that same kind of avenue. And one thing I've heard is you're not going to last long unless you learn how to be able to talk and be able to, you know, de-escalate and handle situations, as in talk to people like they're people and try to, you know, figure things out. Is that a true statement that I'm saying, or am I off bar on that?
When I started working in prison, one of the training officers we had always used to say, if you treat someone like a dog for long enough, they're going to act like it, and then they're going to bite you. And so one of the most important skills that anybody in a position of authority, it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, even a high school teacher, which I guess my job is more like a high school teacher than a cop, at least if you're looking at public school, right? Is de-escalating and being able to, you know, hear somebody out. And you need to be able to take your ego out of things. And you have to have the ability to not be offended by anything somebody says, right? You can't let people control you with words. Your friend Jonathan Piccione, Jonathan Pinecone, he's really good on that point, right? Like, that dude's dope. I love his channel.
He's actually in chat right now, by the way.
Sweet.
What up, Picone?
What's going on, man?
What's up, Picone?
I'm just trying to glimmer, man.
Just really quickly, man. What you just said is incredible, because like I may know somebody who's, you know, been incarcerated for a very short period of time, and the type of people that are in there and the type of people that people become while they're in there is remarkable. And if a CO can't or doesn't remove their ego, the people that are in there resort to their most like instinctual behavior, which is childlike, and all they have is the ability to fight, bicker, argue over the most trivial shit. Which
Childlike
them,
or survivalist.
yeah,
Those are the two things I would say: childlike or survivalist.
Lizard
yeah. Well,
brain.
I mean, all of a sudden, your toilet paper and your toothpaste and your your Dookie rolls are the most important thing in the world. By the way, I hear Dookie rolls are when you crush up a bunch of sweet snacks and make like a little burrito with like crazy stuff and M&Ms and all that. But
Dude, I see they make pizza all the time, and they make pizza by taking like nacho chips. And we can talk about prison recipes later.
Oh,
This is
okay,
serious
okay.
time.
I was gonna say I would jump on that at some point in time because I want to know if there's actually something like prison snack like combo where you're like, fuck, man, they know what the fuck they're talking about.
Well, we may need at some point. We may need some good recipes with some trail mix and combos or whatever. But I guess my point is that like not to generalize, but generally the people in there are mistreating the COs, and you guys have to have the the ego of like just non-existent ego and take shit in stride, because you're literally getting shit on. Like, you guys are getting gassed. You guys
I have had toilet water thrown on me. It was not a good day, but what I did.
Tell them what getting gassed is.
I'm not familiar with the term, to be honest.
So gassing is when you take a mixture of urine, fecal matter.
Oh, we call that chunking. But I guess it's different everywhere. So it usually happens in a place like the hole, which we would now call administrative segregation, which is the hole. It's the same thing. It's different now than you'd see in like Shawshank Redemption, but in many ways it's the same. And so they'll take a cup, because you always have a cup, right? You got to be able to drink water out of the sink in the stainless steel toilet sink combo, right? So you have a cup, and you take your cup and you piss in it, and then you shit in it, and then when the CO opens up your food port in the door to slide you a tray, a meal, something like that, you take that urine and feces and you splash it and you try to get them in the face. That's called chunking.
God damn, that's gonna get on your food. Because they still have to give you the food, man.
Let me tell you this. When someone is at the point where they have been, and you can't even take it personally, because a lot of the dudes that I've seen that have done this, the dude who did it to me, he's off his rocker. Some of these folks, they shouldn't be in here. They should be, I would say that they should be in mental health, but there's no longer any public mental health burden for them to fall upon. They're all gone, They closed them all down in the 80s because of mistreatment. And now they go to jail and they get mistreated there instead.
So, if you have something else to say, I'm sorry. I was going to diverge.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to ask. Okay. What I want to diverge on is basically we kind of went over the mentality of the prisoners, the prison guards, stuff of that nature. But the one thing No, he just turned off his camera. He's putting on mascara or lipstick. I forget which one.
I'm almost ready.
Sweet.
So basically, what I'm curious about is, because obviously you don't live in prison, you're not a prisoner, but you do maintain these inmates, and you feel like you're a high school teacher, let's just say in Compton or in Detroit or some crazy ass place. Now, the mentality and the attitudes of these people, the way they click up, they join up, white people, Hispanic people, black people, whatever it may be, everybody clicks up, joins up, and they do their own thing. Can you see the beginnings of these same personality traits and how they act in prison, but in common occurrence or what you see out in town? And all it takes is just them getting their liberties taken away for them to basically go into more of a childlike or more of a savage or survivalistic kind of mindset. I'm saying this because I don't think people are too far away from picking up a prison mentality real freaking quick when shit hits the fan?
So there's a lot to unpack there. I would say that it's complicated because you have and again, jail is different from prison. In prison, that's a more, most people who are in prison, even if they think that they're there for the wrong reason, they at least accept that they're there. If they think that most people who are in prison, they will acknowledge and admit what they're there for, and that it's fair game, you know. And
usually, Ivan, just really quickly, usually the difference between jail and prison is that prison, you're doing more than a year. You're not being held typically. Is that correct?
It's really different because it's different everywhere you go. Where I'm at, you know, people who go to prison are people who have been convicted of a crime, either by admission or by trial of jury of their peers, right? And prison's a lot different, and it's a lot easier to accept being in prison because there's so much more to do. You know, in prison, you can go to the gym, right? And so when I was working in prison, you never worried about the dudes who were bodybuilders, because they couldn't go to the gym and they couldn't get their commissary and they couldn't do the things that they needed to do to be fit if they were on lockdown. So you never had problems with them. They went to the gym. They were there to better themselves. And in some cases, they had programs that were available to them that allowed them to better themselves. There was a university who partnered with the prison that I was at, and taught classes there. And so these guys got classes. They finished their GED. In some places, it's mandatory for you to get your GED before you can be released on a parole, right? So in order to get an early release on parole, you have to get your GED.
I'm down for that too. That's dope.
So like prison's almost better. In jail, there's no gym, right? 9 times out of 10, you're on lockdown wherever you're at, especially with COVID-19 restrictions. Don't even get me started. And so because of that, any kind of fitness, any kind of self-betterment, it's going to happen right there in your cell.
So there's more people being frustrated in jail than actually in prison, right? Or as of currently right now. Especially
when, you know, you have people who have been in jail for 4 or 5 years now. You have people who have been in jail and they were on a higher profile case, and now their case dates have been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because of COVID-19 and COVID restrictions. And the courthouses putting restrictions on how many people can go into a courtroom at one time. That means cases take longer to process through and everything. It's the same shenanigans. It's just the tightening of the leash. But you guys know all about that already. We don't even have to say anything about it.
Hey,
you already know.
Yeah, Ivan, one thing I will say is I have a crazy neighbor, multiple accounts of trespassing, theft, damage of property, all this other stuff. And the judge told her straight up, because she should have been sent to jail at that point, and waiting for a jury trial. They said if she messes up from now all the way until the jury trial, she has to stay in jail until we have under 10% COVID rate. So she's being very nice right now, and it's amazing. She's selling her house. Thumbs up. I'm having a good time.
Shit.
Now, one thing I want to ask you, Ivan, you can see White Buffalo up there. I don't know if he's above me on your screen. You worked in the prison system. What would they have done to this beautiful little guy right here?
I mean, that all depends on how he came to them, you know?
Oh, he would have came face down and ass up.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's going to be
here, mofo. Listen.
That's what we call a PREA issue, right? Prison Rape Elimination Act of, I believe that was 2004. Yeah, that's a big deal.
I'm just trying to get him to chime in and ask a question right now.
So my bad. So this is really a interesting topic because my father was incarcerated most of my childhood and most of my life. And when he got out, he was afflicted with several ailments and stuff like that and passed away. So I seen him go from a 6 foot, 6'1", 250 man to skin and bones, like stuff like that within
Was it hepatitis?
HIV/AIDS and complications to it.
Yep.
He didn't get it from jail, but he got it prior, whatever. But him being in prison most of my childhood, I didn't really see him. So this is a really interesting topic and conversation. So I'm trying to get some questions to toss your way, but I'm really just listening and seeping in what he was going in. And he was county jail, which would be county down here in South Florida, and then prison. He went upstate. I don't even know the locations because I was so young, but I remember 3-4 hour car rides going to see him and spend time, just visit him for probably an hour, 2 hours, get a couple chicken wings out the little vending machine, sit down, no issues. Everything, for the most part was cordial. He became a deacon while he was incarcerated and stuff like that. So it's an interesting topic. So I appreciate this. And I'm sorry for not chiming up with some questions right now.
No, you good. And if you guys have any
fine.
Just wild off the wall questions, I'm happy to answer.
I do have a legitimate question for you, kind of off of what he was saying. His father was in the prison system, whether it was jail or prison, and you've worked in both areas. So what could you say to somebody who may have a sibling, parent, or something like that in the prison system? And obviously you've seen people, they're down and out. And a lot of times, drugs or having to commit crimes to be able to provide whatever it may be. What can you say to some people like Mr. White Buffalo up here to be able to kind of open up their eyes or give them a little bit of hope on, even if their parents or sibling, whatever happens, what they might be able to do on finding better ground to stand on or moving forward? And I know you've heard a ton of stories. Just like kind of like a little insight, what you could think on giving advice to maybe a younger kid or even somebody our age that has dealt with that might still be, afflicted with that, subconsciously, and, still burns on the inside.
So this obviously is a complicated topic because the criminal justice system is something that tries, fails, and tries again to make things right for people. And whether or not it makes things right for people in the end is, well, who can really say? If you have people in prison, or if you have people who are in jail, especially if you have people who are in jail, you might have a bundle of feelings to unpack about it. There are a lot of complicated situations that lead to people being incarcerated. If you can find it within yourself to be there for them, some people do make mistakes, and whether or not someone is a good person does not always line up to whether or not someone obeys the law. And if you can find it within yourself to be there for them, to write them a letter, to put a little money on their phone and call them, and have them let them call you once in a while, give them that emotional support and connection that they need, that will mean everything to them. And that connection that you have with them will be everything that helps them make the right or the wrong choice. Drug use is rampant in corrections facilities. Sexual abuse is rampant in correctional facilities. And sometimes the difference between someone making the right choice and the wrong choice and allowing themselves to be influenced by other people is their relationship to you and the anchor that you are to them on the outside. Again, whether or not someone deserves to be there, it's not my place to judge. And if anything, it's your place to judge, because you're the one who was affected by it, or you're the one who was the victim or the witness or anything. It's not my place to judge, so I don't. That's not what they pay me for. But, I had a suicide once on a Christmas morning, and I learned after trying and failing to resuscitate him that his fiance had broken up with him. He had called his father for emotional support, and his father said, well, maybe you ought to just kill yourself. And he did. And I'll tell you that if you can find it within yourself to be there for them, in their hour of need, you could make the difference between a seriously bad decision. There's a flip side to that coin. If you have been the victim of somebody's violence, or if you have been affected by someone's evil, you have no obligation to be there for them. And if you can find it within yourself to turn the other cheek, more power to you. I believe the Sermon on the Mount said, that which I do to the least of my brethren, I do unto the divine.
You
And
you
again,
have
if you
to
can,
you have to forgive the person who did wrongdoings against you to be able to find, the resolve and the healing in your own heart. If you can't forgive, and I'm not a Christian, but you're supposed to love your enemy as if they're, your family member, love your enemy as if they're yourself. No matter who that may be, no matter how wrong they did you or your family. And there are some atrocious things that people have done, but you have to find forgiveness somewhere, because if you can't forgive them for what happened, even if they're not apologetic, then that's still going to weigh on your conscience. And that's one thing I've seen time to time throughout people that I've met, and from everything from outlaw, bikers to, Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings to the military, you name it. You have to find forgiveness, because if you can't find the forgiveness, it's going to eat you away. And I'm sorry for jumping on what you were saying. I just wanted to add on to that, because I
you're
truly
fine.
think forgiveness is something that people fail to realize, that is to be able to heal you, not the other person.
Yeah.
To,
Master
to
system.
quote,
Thank you, guys.
to quote somebody else, let's see here. The line of good and evil runs through every man's heart, right? And we can never abolish evil, because no man will cut out his own heart. There are good people in prison. There are bad people in prison. And I'm not going to sit down and give you some kind of percentage of who is good and who is evil, because they're not in there for being good or evil. They're in there because of their interactions with the law. And that is something that can be totally different from good and evil. Like I said, if you can find it within yourself to be there for a person who is in that situation, they're very vulnerable. Whether or not they deserve to be vulnerable, again, that's not my place to judge. That's not what they pay me for.
Yep.
And if you're the victim of someone who's in there, well, I'm glad that right now you are safe from them.
Heck yeah, man.
And it may be time to get a gun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, just forgiveness is a big thing too, guys. Yeah, you guys are hitting on that, so I appreciate that. It's really on point.
Hey, Buffalo. I'm gonna kind of put the ball in your court, man. Bring up a subject, man. Ask our gracious guest a question, or bring up any topic. It don't even have to be something serious. I mean, we can jump onto anything. But I was just trying to give humility and humanity to society and what people are going through, whether they're supposed to be there or not, and also, trying to show a little bit of light on where we live in a free society versus if we get locked up, how soon we will be acting that same way, and what people need to be able to do to be able to handle a situation. You got to de-escalate it. You can't just ramp up. Somebody's always going to think that they're Billy Bass and stand up above you, but end of the day, it is what it is. So change the topic or add on to it, man.
It's kind of an add-on.
Quickly, Buffalo. I'm sorry, just really quickly, because this is one thing I didn't interject in. I think it's important, and you can take time to think about a topic too. when someone is incarcerated, I had a lot of people that I cared about incarcerated, and there have been times where I was not there for them, and times that I was there for them, and I saw how much easier the time was when I was present, when I remembered, when I visited, when I contacted. So, what Light brought up, which is a really good topic, which all of you guys have addressed, is contacting them when you can. Writing them is so important. I know, we get caught up in this little world with blinders on, this world of consumption that we're living in. And, by the time the day is over, you'll forget, but remember to write them, remember their birthday, remember holidays, remember what they are not experiencing when they're, when they're incarcerated. Remember visitation, remember their commissary, remember, put money on their phone, take phone calls, like all of those things will change everything. And there was a friend that I had that I did not provide that level of support to, and he's no longer with us. He hung himself in jail. And
So those things that you're talking about, they help give people a light at the end of the tunnel, and they help them frame their experience, and it helps teach them that they have things waiting for them outside, that life is more than what is currently happening to them right now, and that they have a future. And the opposite side of that coin is, for people who don't have that, people will form connections and form friendships wherever they go. And if they do not have the connections that are outside of jail, they're going to make the connections inside of jail. And their support group will be inside of jail or inside of prison. Their support group will be other criminals who may or may not be involved in future criminal endeavors. And even if they do get out, if those are the connections that they've made, those are the people that they're going to lean on. And then when they go to their buddy's house, their buddy who is their cellie at the state pen, and their buddy gets pulled over and has an ounce of weed in his car, well, guess what happens? He goes back to jail. And so it's very important to maintain normal and healthy connections with people who are in those circumstances, because if you do not, they will seek that people will find friends. People will find people to spend time with. And who they spend their time with, that's going to determine what their future is going to be, if they get to move on from this experience or if they're going to be stuck in it for the rest of their lives. And some people don't make any connections at all. And the suicide that I had was a hanging, and it was terrible. It deeply affected me.
A messed up thing, which I'm not trying to, put military service and prison serving your sentence in the same basket, but at the same time I am. I know a lot of people who did prison time, jail time, that went into the service, and they basically said, this feels pretty much the same, but I have more freedom. But I know I have less freedom and less rights in the military. And, one thing I'll say is, if you have anybody that that's a service member that just joined, who's deployed out, write them also. Straight up, send them a care package, whatever. Because at the end of the day, these people feel alone, and it's really hard when you're in like 90 different time zones away to be able to reach out to family, friends, or whatever is left for them also. So not trying to turn prison into the military, but there's a lot of things that are pretty similar. All right, now White Buffalo, go.
All right.
Yeah.
So before I ask a question, I'm just gonna state something. Don't wait. Just because you have some time and you feel like you can get to the person tomorrow, don't wait at the second chance, at the extra second, the extra minute. I was on my way to go see my father before he passed away, and on the way I found out he passed away, and I could have been there an hour, a couple hours earlier, probably been there with his final minute. So just saying, just every minute counts and matters. And I'm still working on that. So I'm not, preaching from a pulpit or anything like that. I'm not serving service on a mount or nothing, but, just because you have time doesn't mean the next person has time. And if they're on your mind, then definitely go lunge out and reach out. So Ivan, question is, what made you want to go down this path of being a correctional officer? Reason being, I ask, I'm currently in, I want to say, a dead-end job, and I have no felonies, no record, and I'm contemplating doing FWC, Florida Wildlife Conservation. Pretty decent, you know. I got someone in there already that's I kind of grew up with, so I'm debating on whether or not I should go down that route. I'm kind of holding off again due to COVID and shit like that, because I don't know what the hell the future's going to hold. I don't want to start something and be taken away 6 months. I'm over here practicing for something, and you know, society collapses. So I'm kind of at a standstill on my own head on that one. But what made you want to become a correctional officer? You know, was it someone that you grew up with that did it before you, a father, a friend, or you just got tired of the same crap and like, you know, let me go try to make a change?
You know, at the time, I had dropped out of college, and I had kind of disintegrated as a person. My life had kind of fallen apart right before I went to college, and so it was like I had been pretty much set up for failure by myself and a couple other people. And I didn't have a clear goal or a clear idea of what I wanted to do. It was kind of a Malcolm in the Middle kind of thing, where it's like, you remember the scene in Malcolm in the Middle where they keep telling him, you can be whatever you want. You can be an astronaut. You can be a doctor. And he's like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. Just tell me what to do, you know? Yeah, I was a gifted kid, or whatever you want to call gifted, high IQ, whatever. And I'd gone to college, and I had gone through the gifted programs and everything. And none of them had given me a clear picture of what I wanted to do, because that's not what that's for. You know, those things are not for setting you up for success. Those things are for telling you that you're special and indoctrinating you into the cult of public school so that you'll go and get a $55,000 loan to go to college and set yourself up with a load of debt to force you to participate in society the way that they want you to participate in society, and keep you paying taxes and keep you compliant, because everything that we see is sort of a mode of control. But that's little tinfoil hat for this discussion, and you all have already been, you know all about that.
No, there's
already,
no tinfoil hat. If you want to discuss something, this is why we make it an open forum discussion. And
no tinfoil, bro. Just beanies.
The guest is the only one that we say, you know, have some bullet points, and if you want to bring them up, you know, bring them up. But if the topic diverges on something else, dude, it is what it is. We will always find a way to another subject to be able to help educate or teach or give insight. You know what I mean?
I have
it's like
an excellent subject, which is a question I'm saving for later, by the way. So
gotcha.
Just throwing it out there.
So when I left college because I wasn't successful, obviously, because I didn't have a plan. You know, I never studied well as a kid. Everyone was always telling me how smart I was, and that inflated my ego, and so I didn't develop good study skills because I didn't think I needed them. And well, it turns out there's a significant jump in practical difficulty in the tasks that they have you doing when you go to college. Who'd have thunk? At the time I'd studied psychology. It was something that interested me. I dropped out. I went from bullshit job to bullshit job. And, you know, I was coming to, I think I was 23 when I started in prison, because you know, my dad had been a corrections officer for a few years. And he was like, you know, it's a job that anyone can do. You can go in, you might find you like it. You can go in, you might find you hate it. But in the meantime, you'll get benefits. You'll get, you know, a pretty comparably fair wage. I think the prison I was at paid about $15 an hour. And you'll get vacation days. You'll get time off. You'll get sick leave in case something happens, which back then I was like, oh, sick leave. What do you even need that for? So I did it. And that's what got me in. And, you know, I was kind of an asshole at first because I was still figuring things out. And again, I'd kind of gone through a disintegration, so my personality wasn't it wasn't what it used to be. It kind of didn't exist at all for a little while. But I got started in it, and I was successful. I could follow the rules. I could type. I could interact with people professionally, and remove myself from that situation and not be insulted by what people said after some pretty serious exposure to some pretty wild fucking insults. Let me tell you, these fellas know how to Jones. And I joined the CERT team, which is kind of like a SWAT team, but in prison, and learned all sorts of shenanigans there. They taught me how to shoot all kinds of neat new guns. I think we qualified on real old AR-15s, real old. I don't want to say exactly what kind, but because I don't want to dox myself, but they did definitely
original Vietnam era.
Well, they were commercial guns, wink, wink, and they had triangular handguards and some very non-adjustable rear sights. Okay.
I was gonna say A1 or A2s.
Hey, you're onto something there. Anyways, so and which still my favorite kind of AR. It's the first one I ever shot. I mean, Dad had a mini 14, but it's different, you know.
Yeah.
And I found that I really enjoyed what I did. And corrections officers as a whole, if you're even a little bit of a masochist, you know, you'll really start to enjoy it because it is a job of suffering, and you will go in and there's a lot of violence and a lot of threat of violence, which is worse in my opinion, because you know, we'd rather just get it over with instead of just dealing with the threat and the perception of it. It's like engaging in psychological torture pretty much every day that you clock in. And you have to, some people go in and it gives them a personality disorder. Again, I had kind of disintegrated, so it didn't give me a personality disorder. I could kind of sublimate out of that. And
do you think you actually benefited and built upon your personality and became a better person from it? That's kind of what it sounds like.
You know, I learned a lot I didn't learn a lot in college. That's a lie. I learned a little in college. I learned more in 5 years in working in a corrections environment than I ever did in any amount of classroom learning. I mean, it's practical and hands-on, but I learned more about human psychology and behavioral manipulation way more in prison than I ever did in the classroom.
Yeah, how have your verbal judo skills increased over the last 5 years? Like, I bet you could talk down anyone.
Well, the trick that I have, and you can apply this to every walk of life, every conflict that you have, when someone is running off the handle and they keep going up and going up and going up, well, what you do when you're talking to them is you just get lower and lower and lower in your volume, and you get calmer and calmer and calmer. And what happens is they can't hear you talking, so they'll lower their volume so they can hear you talking. That behavioral cue of them lowering their volume helps reduce the heart rate a little.
I do that with my children and it works.
Hey, I'm serious. It works. When you need to be able to identify the difference between when someone is running off the handle because they're upset and they're not a danger to someone, and when someone is running off the handle and they're going to beat you to death. So there are a lot of different behavioral cues there. If someone's starting to run off the handle, they're getting real heated, their volume is going up, but it's just their volume. You know, they're complaining. They got something on their chest. They got to burn off some steam. Well, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's best to just let them and deal with it in a minute. If you got someone who's doing the same thing and they're moving around their hands a lot, they're swinging their hands back and forth, you know, they're doing that thing where they bring their hands up real quick and hit themselves almost in the shoulder with fists. They're making fists. They're moving their hands around a bunch. Well, they're getting that blood flow into their forearm and in their hands so that they can put those hands on you, right? So there's a lot of good training through experience I'll call it, in recognizing, body language and
Like pre-attack indicators.
Yes. So, like I said, if you're in public, and I know you guys talk about like defensive situations, how often do you feel like breaking a prisoner out when you have empathy for? I never feel like breaking a prisoner out because it's a federal crime, and I don't want the feds who hold people at the facility that I work for.
Have you ever been offered a
black
lot
bag
of
me.
money? Have you ever been offered a lot of money to break somebody out?
No, and
Like El Chapo Jr.
So, man, that is like it is a difficult thing to do to get someone out of custody because there are just so many human barriers to someone leaving out of a corrections facility. So
I've watched the movies. You just put them in a trash bag, and on
You know
trash
what?
day,
You're right.
like they just
You're-
go right out.
you're
They
right.
go
Yeah,
under a
Tell him he needs to order. He has to order a rock prospecting set from the warden. And he needs like a 4x6 poster on the wall and a spoon, and he should be good to go. He'll
I
figure
just
out the
need a
rest.
file and a chisel and a hammer and a poster. We're good. All right.
So check me out.
JMFN.
One story.
Go ahead.
One story that I
Listen,
remember
listen,
when I.
listen. Sorry.
My bad. Go ahead. One story that I remember when I was going to visit my father is that, well, at least probably a week, maybe a month before we went to go visit him one time, they had a prisoner escape, but they didn't do it the conventional way, digging a tunnel, breaking a hole in the wall, going over the fence, the barbed wire. No, actually, his girl, wife, mom, whatever the hell she was, came in with some clothes underneath her clothes, right?
Mhm.
A set of clothes. Gave
Yep.
it to him. He went to go change. He came out looking like an everyday citizen.
Walks
And
right out the
apparently he
front door.
walked the fuck out. I'm like,
Yep.
yo, what?
So
And
it's
then,
like
yeah.
I used to work up in in like what you would call like the control area that controls all the airlocks for the front door. And so we used to run drills where we would have another CO like hide in a big laundry cart, and another CO would like wheel the laundry cart up to the airlock. And you need to know policy and procedure when you're working in a place like that, because the policy is no container will exit the airlock without being thoroughly searched, right? And so a supervisor would even roll it up. It's called an egress test. And they'd knock
And you
up,
guys
they'd
stab
scan
it
their
with
ID.
bayonets. You guys stab it with bayonets, right?
I mean, we use broom handles, but damn near, you know.
Shit.
And really, it's supposed to be empty. So there's no. It was like full of jumpsuits, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, like, why are you wheeling jumpsuits into the airlock, bro? And he's like, I'm a lieutenant, let me through. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. And then he's sitting there, he's like, let me through, go forth. And I'm not, no, you will not go through here. And man, lo and behold, the CO jumped out from underneath that pile of dirty laundry. Hilarious. But yeah, they do that. And so like there are policies in place that are like you can't bring in any extra clothing than the clothing that's on you because of that, right?
Yeah.
And hey, you know what? That shit happens.
I was gonna say it's funny because I like over the past 3 months I've seen one person escape, 2 people escape, and then 1 person escape. And I'm like, how the fuck do they manage to do that? They got their jumpsuits on. It's not like they dug a hole, this or that. You know, I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 they walk out the front door because the place doesn't have good policy and procedure.
I have literally heard somebody getting the wrong paperwork and them letting them walk the hell out. But what I'm talking about is people escaping in their jumpsuits. Over like, let's just say the past 6 months, there was 1 person in a jumpsuit, 2 people escaped together in a jumpsuit, and then another 1 person escaped in a jumpsuit. And I
hope
just
that the
can't
2
fathom.
people who did it in the jumpsuit, I hope that it was the same jumpsuit and they were like, you know, in it together,
No,
like
I
three-legged
I
racing through it.
Siamese twins.
dude, I watched the video. It was a somebody like 35 to 45, and then the other person was like 65 years old. And basically, you
I
had
saw that.
one almost fit CO or cop, and the other one was way out of shape. And he's panting, and he's like, "Fuck, stop, so I can taser you." But
Oh man, yeah. Let's
They
talk
got
about
him.
that for a second.
okay,
So,
all right, let's talk about that. I
uh,
got something after this though.
I got you. We'll make this quick. Again, we run into that issue of corrections facilities lowering standards because they don't have enough staff, right? Um, so what happens is they start getting rid of things like physical tests. And then you have an issue of obesity amongst staff. You have, and I'm not just talking about someone who's above BMI. Like I
That's
could stand
shank
to lose 10
protection, bro.
pounds, right?
Dude,
Right.
that's shank protection, so they don't
I'm
get the
talking
vital
about
organs. You got
I'm
that much
talking about
space between.
people who can't make it up a flight of stairs, right? People who can't drag a 50-pound dummy for 25 yards. It's it's really terrible. It's embarrassing. It's like you know, I'm not you know, you White Buffalo, if you're considering a career like in public service and law enforcement or corrections, like you don't have to be a RoboCop super soldier, right? Like you're not going in there to hurt people, but you have to have some amount of physical prowess because you may need to move weight to save somebody's life. You may need to reposition a body to provide CPR. You may need to carry someone out of a housing unit. These are all things I've had to do. You may have to cut somebody down and drag them out of a cell. You know, when somebody's dead and they're not, moving to help you, they're pretty heavy. They say dead weight for a reason. It's pretty significant.
Dead weight is legitimate. 150-pound man, freaking unconscious, might as well be dead, is going to be the hardest 150 pounds you've ever moved. Now
Yeah,
just
mine was
imagine them weighing more.
230.
Fuck.
And like and so it's like you have people who are reporting to shift. They're making the same amount of money that you are. They're getting the same benefits that you are. And they literally cannot pull their weight.
That's just straight up sad. Like I really don't get how that can persist in a government funded building. Like
because of necessity. Because they need warm bodies. And
if
because
they
the
don't
legislation
have people to fill those spots, they start
Yep.
lowering their standards, and they
That's
start
right.
saying, okay, you know what, this
So
95-pound soy boy, yeah, you could be a maximum security guard at fucking Leavenworth.
Antifa member.
Go for it.
it happens. It happens. And they have to have people. So they're gonna pull who they got. I've seen people make it all the way through the hiring process with a criminal record, and then they fire them a month later because they finally run the background check. Right?
Wow,
it's that same negligence that is born out of necessity. They don't care. They just need somebody today, and they'll figure it out tomorrow. Right? Well, the next day they say they'll figure it out tomorrow, and the buck keeps on rolling.
I have higher hopes for our government.
It's like so everything that you need to know about waste, fraud, and abuse, about the corruption and the attitude of government officials, you will learn in a corrections facility. You will learn that people do not care. You'll learn that people go to government jobs in order to get a paycheck, in order to get their benefits. And some people may care. You may come to accept your job and the duty that you have to protect lives and the job that you do to keep people from killing themselves, right? And you know that you serve your community every day that you go into work. But then you'll see all your coworkers and you'll know that they come into work for a paycheck and they don't care what happens. And their negligence, their waste, fraud, and abuse creates more work and more danger for you later on. And that is every government office. That's every DMV. That's
That's
Every
exactly what I was going to
police
say.
department.
Is the
That's every
corrections
branch of the
facility,
military.
is the corrections facility basically more dangerous DMV?
It is a microcosm that reflects the reality of government service in every branch. And so
But
you
I
have
also
your
think it's a microcosm on what society is and what society will break down to.
that's I would, by and large, I would agree with that.
Okay.
All right. Hey, so Bobby has a good question. So what would the
Bobby
plan be
Bobi?
with the prisoners? Yeah, well, I can't say his name yet. So what would the plan be with the prisoners if shit hits the fan? What would they do with the prisoners? And is there a standardized plan for the situation like that or what?
There
So
is no standardized plan for
I
that
was going to say I
because
can hit this.
the government does not plan for things to ever fall apart like that, at least not at the state or local level. And so I have seen plans for like you just lock the facility down and go from there. That's like the the general consensus is if something bad happens is a pretty nebulous plan. So there's two parts to that. There's something bad happens. We're not even going to get into that. But basically speaking, if something bad happens, we just lock the whole facility down. Everybody goes back to their cell. We lock all the doors. And then they don't say much after that.
Yeah,
so
the
essentially
guards leave.
First,
and
lock
all
it
the
down.
prisoners
We'll figure it
stay
out
in
later.
Cell. All the guards leave, or the prisoners stay in the cell, and the guards leave, or the guards let out the prisoners. I mean, if we get to a effed up situation, you have to try to figure out: is somebody going to open up the doors for these people, or are they going to stay shut while everybody's trying to hunker down somewhere else?
So
Which
I got
there's no
something.
plan. There's no plan.
Yeah, there's no plan. No plan beyond lock them all down.
I remember when I was younger and I was just getting into this conspiracy thing. When my dad was out of prison before he passed away and whatnot, and then we were talking about martial law, and he was like, the only martial law that's going to happen is something more crazy were to happen. He's like, they would kill all the prisoners in jail, in prison. And
so there's a question here. So what happens if there is a fire? I will get to that as soon as you finish, Mr. Buffalo.
Yeah, his input on martial law, at least for the prison and jails, was that they would kill the inmates if something crazy was to happen because they can use those prisoners to go out and attack the populace, the civilians and whatnot. And I have never heard anybody either confirm nor deny that. So I just thought I'd throw that out there too for
release a whole bunch of dangerous people, depending on if it's low security, medium, or high security. It all depends if they'd be willing to let them go in a situation like that. I would assume that people in high security prisons, the doors are going to stay locked and everybody's going to leave the facility. Low risk facilities, I would like to assume that people might be let out, but you have no idea. You don't know what's going to happen in a scenario like that because they don't have a game plan for that. So I'll let you say what you're going to say, and then I want to bring up something to make things more humorous after this.
Yeah, I've read a lot of policy and procedure, or at least the policy and procedure that I have access to. I've never seen anything that would indicate that, but you have to keep in mind, like, if that was the plan, they'd never let the folks at the bottom rung of the ladder see it, right?
Oh yeah.
They'd never let us know if that was the plan. It's like, yeah. So it's, again, I mean, everything's open to speculation, right?
Yeah. Right. We don't know until it happens, and it's you people with or UCOs with your boots on the ground are the ones that are going to make the inevitable decision at the end of the day. So I'm going to bring up something funny, and then we're going to get into our next.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Oh yeah, go for it.
A fella asked what would happen if there was a fire. So I have been in units for fires, and now it is very difficult to burn down a cinder block building. So I'll say that now, and so there's already a mitigation for fire. Most of the mattresses are made out of non-flammable materials. So if someone has something to burn, it's usually like their clothing and their sheets. and it's not enough. It's enough material to create a lot of smoke, but it's not enough material to do any real damage to anybody but maybe one person. And so now there might be a lot of books or paper or legal material, and so you might get a good flash fire going, but you're not going to have enough BTUs there to do enough damage to the building to get it to come down. And so the answer to that is, when there's a fire in a housing unit in a campus-style prison, they evacuate the unit, just like you would evacuate a school, just like you would evacuate any other public building. If you have like a one building facility, they evacuate the floor, they evacuate the immediate area of the fire, and they assess the damage and the risk to health before they bring people back in. Very rarely does anyone leave the facility for anything like that. It would have to be a catastrophe to the level of having the National Guard involved, right? Before they start pulling people out of a facility because of something like a fire.
All right. So just to jump, hold on. Let me just jump on.
But that could be different in other places. I'm not exactly in a place where there's a bunch of wildfires or anything, so I don't know how they do it out there.
Right. I was just going to say, in the Navy, we had flame retardant, fire retardant clothing and gear. And I'll tell you right now, it's only fire retardant as long as you don't leave it in a fire. But Gar wanted to say something.
Are you telling me Nomex only lasts so long?
What? No, I would never say that. All right. Somebody had something to ask before I bring on to the...
You want me to go now?
Go. Yeah, go now, because I'm going to jump on the next topic right after you.
So this is a very specific question for a very specific reason. Are you sitting down?
I am.
Always.
Okay. Have you ever found or heard of the use of a chicken bone syringe?
A chicken bone syringe.
Mm-hmm.
Drug use.
Like like as a weapon to drain
like
a femoral
a
artery?
syringe to put drugs in your arm.
So I'm a recovering addict. I've been clean for over 10 years. I was a heroin addict, addicted to opiates. And I've heard a lot of different people. So getting needles into prison is extremely valuable. Like, people will pay $100 for one 11-cent disposable syringe, and they'll use it for a year, and the whole pod will use it. Right?
Yeah.
So many people, and what they'll do is, the T mark where the plunger goes down, they'll shave them off, and then they'll prison wallet that shit. But a lot of people that can't get them, or they break, or whatever, I've heard of people using chicken bones, and in several different facilities, chicken bones to make syringes. And they literally sharpen them.
Have never heard of that. But I guess it would depend on the kind of chicken bone that you had access to. Most bird bones are hollow. So I suppose if you killed like a dove or like a crow or like a common bird, and you took its rib bone, maybe that would be small enough to do that with. I mean, the propensity, oh my God, just that's disgusting. So if you get a blood infection, what happens is the pus response inside of your blood will build up until it disrupts the function of your heart, and then you'll die, or it'll disrupt the function of your brain.
Yeah.
Typically, you'll see a little red. You'll see a little red line where the bad blood is going to your heart, and that could be bad. And if it hits your heart, then it goes up to your brain, and then that's deadly.
One of the most common ailments that occurs in prison is MRSA, or multiple resistant Staphylococcus aureus, and that's just from poor hygiene all around, or poor access to like cleaning materials. Yeah. And so, that sounds organic material like bone. is very porous, and it obviously attracts a lot of bacteria and fungi. That sounds like a really good way to get a blood infection. No, I've never heard of it. I mean, I suppose if someone was really desperate enough, but my question is, how would they build up the fluid pressure inside of the bone to inject it without the the cylinder
Put their
portion of the
mouth
needle?
on, I would assume they put their
Yeah.
mouth on it, and the other person puts their mouth on it with the substance in their mouth, and then they go back and forth. But I've seen chicken bones, man. They're fucking thick as fuck. They're about
Yeah.
the same
Shave them
side as
down.
the vein.
Oh,
So
okay.
think of the chicken bone as being like bar stock aluminum, and then you make an AR receiver.
Yeah, it's just
No.
like
I don't
I
want
don't
a chicken
know.
bone
I mean,
AR.
even if
we're
we're gonna have to call Mythbusters on this one and see if they can do it, because I don't know.
Well, hear me out. Hear me out.
It's a wild topic.
So what
All
I've
right,
heard.
we heard you on this.
Hold on. There's one more. You got to think of the whole thing, okay?
The rib
Sure.
cage of a dove.
Blow air into the bloodstream.
Now, I will say that we do find syringes pretty commonly,
Mhm.
or the places who don't have good syringe control find syringes pretty commonly, because diabetes is pretty common in correctional facilities.
Mhm.
And so individuals will palm or steal diabetic needles, or they'll get into medical. It really depends. Some facilities have really good control over their medical area and medical supplies, and some facilities don't have so good control. And if you don't have control over your sharps containers, then they're just going to get your diabetic needles and use them that way. So it depends.
Yeah. So
All right.
for the whole picture, hold on. You need the whole picture.
God
What
damn
you
it.
do? I know it's the last thing. Okay.
You're killing
What
me
I've
here.
heard is the chicken bone, shave it down to be as thin and small as possible, basically to where it's hollow, right? And then you sharpen it off, and then you take a piece of a latex glove or a balloon, just a small piece, and use that to or rubber.
Wait, are you giving him on-job training right now, just in case?
I'm just sharing what's been shared with me. That's my goal, is to contribute to others. It's not the most trustworthy, but the only reason I asked is because I had heard about it, and all of your reaction was my reaction, like a chicken, but like the picture you get in your head is like crazy. So I'm sorry, that's it. I'm done.
Okay,
No, you're
all
good.
right. All right, we're done with that. We'll talk about prison shanks by the end. Okay, so the first,
And if you think that was
one,
cool, in chat, say chicken bone.
the first one is a funny one, but an honest
Chicken
question at the same time. The second one is going to be the topic we're getting into. So just so happens, let's say I'm about to go to prison. With all these new identify as laws, if I identify as a woman, do I go to a woman's prison or jail?
That is a good question, and hang tight. So just buckle up, okay?
Okay, I'm
So,
curious.
So at every correction, so this has become a PREA issue, and if you spend any time working with corrections or doing anything, you'll become accustomed to the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and that act came into being because an individual who was transgender and identified as female and dressed and presented as female, even though they had male genitalia, was housed with other males in a federal correctional facility, and that individual was repeatedly sexually abused and contracted HIV. And so that individual sued the federal government, and the federal government was held culpable for that. And so as a result of that, PREA, the Prison Rape Elimination Act, was penned up and signed. And so what PREA did was provide a bunch of money for places to have cameras and programs and administrators to basically investigate claims of sexual abuse, because this individual reported sexual abuse repeatedly, and the staff reportedly ignored this individual and let it keep on happening because they didn't care, which is something called deliberate indifference. That's something totally different. You can look it up. It's an important thing if you're in public service.
Right, but you're getting off subject.
Right,
I
sorry.
want the quick answer. Yes or no?
Because of that, that depends on how far along you are in your transition, sir. And there
I
is
just
a
figured out
committee
I was a
called
woman, and
called the
I want to start transitioning right now.
So the transgender committee at the corrections institution or at the wherever you're in custody at will make a determination on your housing based on your claims of being transgender and your physical attributes. If you have a pingus, you are not going to go in with the ladies because that is too much of a risk.
I'll
If you
be
have a
seeing a lot of
pingus and then
penises,
you have
apparently.
some additions on your upper level, then you may be housed in administrative segregation because you can't be around individuals of either gender because you're seen as a risk to the females because of your pingus, but you're at
Say
risk from the
pingus
males
in
because
chat,
of your up
please.
top additions.
Okay, all right. So let's
So you
end
gotta
it
have a
there
dick pussy.
because I'm kind of pissed off because they're talking about transgenders going into female sports in the Olympics, and I can't be a female if I go to prison. That's fucked up. All right, so enough with that. I want to ask about fucking OC spray and pepper spray. And I know you probably had a good taste of this shit, bro. I did too. I had pepper spray and OC spray.
Right
So,
in the pingus.
I once saw someone get pepper spray directly in their pingus.
Oh, that's painful.
Bro,
Well,
I heard a similar story.
He shouldn't have done that with his pingus. That's all I'm going to say about that. I didn't do it. It had nothing to do with me.
I guess you're right.
When people wash their face and it runs down their body to their area, they don't think to remember.
So if you've ever been pepper sprayed or if you get CS gassed, which is tear gas, both of those things build up in your hair and in your eyebrows. And so even if the pain is done in your, and this is practical knowledge for everyone, even if the pain is done in your eyes, when you get in the shower afterwards, first of all, you're going to want to take a cold shower. You're going to want to use some baby shampoo, and you're going to want to lean real far forward so that only your head is under the shower and it doesn't let anything run down. You don't want anything running down the front. You don't want anything running down the back.
Can you give them the explanation on why they want cold water versus hot water?
Hot water will reactivate and open up your pores, which will cause OC, which is pepper spray, and CS gas, which is tear gas, to again come back out of your pores and reactivate. And then it'll mix with the hot water, and it'll go down your front into your giblets, or it'll go down your back, and into that place. And man, you don't want that stuff in either place. It's no good. You don't want that.
One thing I learned is vegetable oil or olive oil, and also milk. Milk just to be able to wipe it off first, and then vegetable oil. It'll help pull up any of the capsaicin oils, and then rewash with milk again. Most people don't know about the vegetable oil thing.
Shampoo.
From experience, from seeing it happen, I would advise against using any kind of oil because what it'll do is it'll coat it and it'll make it harder to get off. If you have exposure to pepper spray, if you've been pepper sprayed, your best bet is to tough it out and sit there and continue to rinse with cool water. And I'll say the same thing with tear gas. And milk, some people say some things. I've never put milk on my face, but I've been pepper sprayed so many times now that it's like it's not even like it's like eating Frank's Red Hot at this point. I mean, that's not quite right. It's like getting Frank's Red Hot in your eye, which is painful and it sucks, but you know how much it's going to hurt and you know when it's going to stop hurting, and so you can just kind of move on.
You just got to strobe. Just strobe.
Strobing works, but what I see a lot of inmates do when they get pepper sprayed is they go over to their toilet and they stick their head like in the bowl but not in the water, and then they flush the toilet repeatedly because the water going down the pipe draws air down into it, and so it's like a cool air fan when you're down there in the toilet.
Just bleach that toilet before you do it.
Yeah, pretty much. And
good luck bleaching in the prison.
Yeah. So again, if you've been pepper sprayed, the first thing is, if you're in a survival situation and you've been pepper sprayed, understand that it's painful, but it's not doing any permanent harm. You're going to get through it. So you just need to buckle up and get through it. And you need to accept that it's going to hurt. Don't fight the fact that it's hurting, because then you're going to panic. Don't panic.
A lot of hyperventilating
Except that you may not
occurs
be able
during
to
that
see.
time frame too. A lot of hyperventilating happens during that time.
That's right. And that makes it worse, because then you draw it into your lungs. So chill out.
There's only,
try to strobe your eyes until you can see again.
Yeah,
find somebody to help you out.
Yeah.
If you're getting tear gas, just get out of the tear gas.
Sorry.
They call that spicy air, from what I hear the Antifa members mention. Spicy air.
So when you go through like a use of force training, they have like levels of force that you have to go through, and they literally put pepper spray before what they call hard empty hand. So before I put my hands on someone in a defensive situation, or in a situation where I'm trying to gain control of them, before I put my hands on someone, I'm supposed to pepper spray them, unless they're compliant, right?
Yeah.
Now, I would advise you to like sit down and read a law enforcement use of force continuum and read a breakdown of it to get a better understanding of why that is. I don't want to spend like an hour going into that, you know what I mean? But by and large, pepper spray will not cause permanent damage. At least it hasn't caused it to me, and I've been pepper sprayed a bunch of times. But what it does do is it hurts a fucking lot, right? And so when you see like little kids getting pepper sprayed, or when you see like people who are sensitive, or people who don't have very good pain tolerance, because I mean, nobody should have to have a pain tolerance, right? Like that's not something that society should require it of you.
Yeah.
If you have it, that's great, but that's not something that we should expect from people, right? So it's very painful to see things like little kids get pepper sprayed, because it's like, that it hurts a lot because you've been pepper sprayed, but you're a big boy now and you have the tools that you need to deal with pain, and that child doesn't. And so that's not good. But pepper spray has been really politicized lately, and I mean, I don't know, I hate to sound callous when I say it, but it's not that bad.
Get some bear spray.
We're with you.
I would honestly agree with you, because I've been pepper sprayed in the military multiple times.
Let me say this.
Been OC gassed. Go ahead.
CS gas, tear gas can kill you. They pumped tear gas into Waco.
Exactly.
And that's what killed those kids.
And I was going to bring that up because it's actually flammable.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That bitch on fire.
Here, tinfoil hat alert. A buddy of mine just got like a bunch of videotapes from his uncle, and one of them was an 8-hour Alex Jones special about Waco and 9/11. And it was like, oh my God. It came out in like 2002. It was pretty lit.
That's a truth bomb.
Yeah, that thing was no joke.
Oh yeah, dude. It's fucking legitimate. I mean, there's a lot of things, and I don't say put on your tinfoil hat. Now, we have talked about aliens before, and I may have my own personal views on certain things, but I also see a lot of things in the same way Dugan sees things.
I say tinfoil hat in kind of a self-deprecating way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha. But
it's my
like
humor coming through.
I see a lot of things in the same way that Dugan does, but at the same time, I don't have some of the same views that he has, and I've argued with them. And Dark has been in the conversation with me when I've argued with them, and I've caught Dugan off guard. And I don't. I typically don't go hardcore whenever Dugan's on, because it's not my job to argue with him. But my job is to be here to help show different sides of the conversation as much as I can, or open up different sides to be able to talk about. Go ahead. I'm sorry for
I
interrupting.
would have, just to explain where I'm coming from, I would only have 2 arguments with Mr. Ashley at this point. And the
Yes.
first argument is his assertion that the best AK is a Polish underfolder with a dong grip on it so that you can get up on that dong and like really get it into your shoulder.
That
And
the
my
car-
argument there is
the
that
robot foot looking thing.
Oh my God.
First of all, that crutch stock is horrible. And I'll never own that Mod-E. I don't like Mod-Es that much. The only Mod-E I want is a Stayer Mod-E because of Red Dawn.
The only mod.
But like I said, there you go. The best AK is in 7.62x39. Sorry, is probably an AKMS with a palm swell handguard, and I only say that because I love a palm swell.
That's a shorter AK, right?
No, an AKMS is an underfolder. So like a Polish underfolder.
AK 74.
No, that's an AK AKS74U. So S means skladnoy, which is folding. We won't get into that, but yeah. So my 2 arguments with Dugan is, first of all, it's an AKMS but with a palm swell instead of a dong, and he likes Polish underfolders. I do too, because their underfolding mechanism is the same as the Russians. It's straight into your shoulder.
Just to throw this out there real quick, if you have one, I have a Polish underfolder as well and love it. And,
hang on, listen to this real quick.
Cheese grating sensation.
Hold on, we gotta listen.
Uh-oh, hang on. Can you hear this?
You
know that noise.
I heard that noise.
That's here for emotional support right now.
But I will say it. I wish I could bust that thing out, but the live stream will get shut down. Polish underfolders, they stopped importing them around like 2010, maybe.
Yeah, and then we've been able to get some parts kits in, and here we go down the gun rabbit hole again. Arms of America got a bunch of the parts kits in from Radom, and Radom, WBP Radom did the D-mill on them, and it was a really good D-mill, and we got batches in between 2010 and like they quit coming in 2018. I got mine built in late 2018. And if either of you two need to have a parts kit built, I don't want to like shill for somebody on here, but I really like the guy who did mine. I'm more than happy to text you their information.
I mean, if you think they did good work, and I mean, put them out there. It's all good.
Oh, my favorite would be Northwest Gun Supply out of Nampa, Idaho. They're dope. They do excellent work. Okay. They've done a lot for me. Anyways, those kits haven't been in because the Polish Navy realized that they sold a lot of their stockpile, and they were like, we got to hang on to those guys. Up. So, yeah. So there's that.
All right. So what's issue number 2?
Oh, God damn, I almost forgot. I think I did forget. No, hang on.
You got
it. Just a second. I had the Polish underfolder issue. I'll think of it later, I'm sure. I got sidetracked.
Ivan, I'm going to let you start the new topic. Wherever you want to start it, whatever it may be, let's go from there.
Oh, dear. Oh, man. Well, I'm sure nobody else has any questions.
What about self-sufficiency or independence?
Oh, yeah, that's probably a good topic. Well, gardening kind of runs in my family, and I finally got into a place where I have the ability to plant a lot. So I have a whole pile of seeds that are sitting up on my counter, and they're all sorted by plant date. I'm going to have a pretty busy spring. I've got to build a couple of potato boxes because I don't want to put them in the yard. Then I've got to get peas in, peppers, kohlrabi, which is like a kind of turnip. I'm set for pretty much everything.
With your potato boxes, are you growing anything with the potatoes, or are you just having them strictly as potatoes and letting the vines come out?
I am going to do them as potatoes, just fill the box so I can pull them out of the bottom, you know?
I would recommend, just this is from my my personal experience, because they take up a lot of space, and yes, the potato vines, they will vine out, but you can get them to overflow the boxes, and you can open up space in between and start planting herbs and spices, stuff of that nature, and they will cohabitate. And basically, by the time your potatoes are ready, is about the time when you should be pulling up your herbs and spices, whether you're going to replant them or not. I would just say try to cohabitate as much as you can, and don't leave any wasted space, because you know the potatoes are going to be what, 2 to 4 inches underground for the most part. So that would be one thing that I would recommend. Just my own personal commentary on that.
I hadn't
the
really
other
thought
stuff,
of that.
yeah, I wouldn't say growing anything like tomatoes or anything where it's going to like try to produce, because then it's going to try to take a lot of nutrients out. But like herbs and spices, perfect, and they will help add and help fill up all the gaps in the soil. And you can always space out the vines just to be able to run past them once they start establishing. Once they start
Yeah.
establishing, let them go the way they are. So I would recommend that when it comes down to the potatoes. Other than that, what you already said sounds good.
Yeah, I've got a flower bed that's on the south side of my house, right outside of my kitchen door, you know, so I can just kind of step out and boom, it's right there. And it's to the right of the kitchen door as you're stepping out. And I was going to put the potato boxes over on the left, and then because it's on the south side and it gets full sun, we're going to do herbs over in the flower bed. And now I'm thinking maybe I can move, you know, the rosemary over into the potato boxes, which is something to think
The
about.
rosemary, no. Rosemary will grow like a fucking full-size fucking holly
What do you grow
bush.
in your potato boxes?
I don't have any potato boxes right now, but when I was growing in potato boxes, if it was rosemary, just like basically seed packet rosemary, I'd let it grow it up just enough to be able to harvest. But typically I'd grow basil, sweet mint, spicy basil, just a whole bunch of different varieties of just herbs and spices, because they don't take up a lot of nutrients, and
Okay.
they're pretty leafy. But with the rosemary will tip where you have a freaking trunk on it, like that thick, if not thicker, and grow up to like 4 or 5 feet tall. Like I've had some pretty amazing rosemary bushes,
Yeah, I have
and
a
it helps keep
whole
away insects too.
packet of just a whole pile of like different seeds that I have to get in just for the spice garden. I even got some heirloom stuff like sweet oregano and Greek basil and this and that.
Oh yeah, those will do well with the potatoes. If you do any kind of bonfires outside, the wood ash, scoop it up immediately. Obviously, make sure it's cool and you don't have any embers in there. Scoop it up and sprinkle it over over the potato. Anything that's a tuber, your vining stuff, your herbs and spices, also your tomatoes. Blueberries don't care for it. There's 1 or 2 other things I can't think of right now that don't care for it. But I'll tell you right now, you'll be doing yourself a great service reallocating your wood ash if you're not using that to make lye to make soap.
Yeah, this fellow's asking a question, just your average goy. I live in California, and when COVID hit, we let out thousands and thousands of even violent prisoners. I just want to know if shit hit the fan, would they let all the prisoners out or what? Thanks. We kind of touched on that earlier. It really depends on where you're at, and in California, that's probably exactly what they would do. I think that your best answer to that question is to look at where you're at and what they've done in the past.
Yeah.
And if in times like that they've let out people, then they're probably going to let out people. And if times like that they've said, no, we ain't letting nobody out, then they're probably not going to let anybody out.
I've
If
seen
shit hit
it
the
from
fan,
LA.
And,
I've
Yeah.
seen Escape from L.A. I've
Yeah.
seen what prisoners being let out looks like.
California's a shit show.
Yeah, so like
California,
keep
they
that in mind, but
probably-
also keep in mind that it's Murphy's Law, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, there's no telling what would happen because it's all based on what would happen, right? And if you don't know what's going to happen, then you don't know what's going to happen.
Yep. The worst
Yeah.
possible thing is the most likely thing that's going to happen. Murphy's Law. The worst case scenario is basically what you should expect. And that's what the military taught us. Expect the worst, hope for the best. If the worst doesn't happen, hey, you're already, 10 feet in front of what you expected to be.
Yeah, I would say professionals are predictable, amateurs are dangerous.
Yep.
But we all know that.
Good quote. Good quote.
Does anybody have anything else to say? We're coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, I was
I don't
gonna
know
say,
if
let's-
we want to keep this thing rolling on, or we want to just keep on chatting, or start
down.
asking from the comment section.
I was gonna say let's give it to comments, and let's give, since there's a bit of a delay, the next few minutes for you guys to post your questions. I just want to go ahead and say I know this one's been a little bit more touch and go with like muting and unmuting and whatnot, but I just wanted to say thank you for what you do, man. I could imagine that it's demoralizing, it's challenging, it's difficult, and it sounds like you've really taken a really positive spin on what you do, and it sounds like you are not only fucking good at it, but that you're doing your best to make a positive impact. And there's a lot of shitbags out there, man, especially in the CO world that they couldn't make it in law enforcement or couldn't make it in some super fucking high speed special operators team or whatever. There's probably a lot of shitbags in there, and just
A lot of
appreciate what
people
you
with
do.
a superiority complex, and they just
Yeah.
want to be able to beat on somebody else, which same as the military. I've seen it
Yeah.
there, and I can only imagine, as an inmate, the same thing, as a CO, the same thing. And just like what Dark was saying, man, we really want to say, dude, from what you said and, explained to us, you're one of the good guys. And we know there's other good guys out there, but, it doesn't sound like you're jaded, and it doesn't seem like you're pulled away from it, and, just nothing gets to you anymore. It seems like it is what it is. I'm going to freaking help out the best I can. And at the same time, I'm not going to add to these people's misery.
Yeah.
And do what I have to do and go
And they're
home every
people.
day.
And then I got one question for you too.
And I've been hearing, listening to your, words are important, right? Listening to your specific languaging, hearing you say that, they're just people. They could be good people. They just broke the law. Little things like that, that gives us a good example of who you are as a person. I do want to touch on one thing just for, dark like Dugan. We've been discussing doing this giveaway, and I want to give a shout out to Matt Telhart, I believe it is. There's a few Matts in here. So Matt Telhart is making a custom knife that is going to be in the first giveaway that we do, and he is actually stamping them Dark Light Dugan, and he's naming them like he's got one. I don't want to give too much away, but fuck it. One of them is a little cleaver, and it's called the Light Cleaver. One of them is a little claw, and it's called the Dark Claw. And the other one that's going to be in the giveaway is, I'll say that one will be a surprise. But they're actually fucking heat stamped Dark Light Dugan. And he said, hype it up, bro. They're heat stamped Dark Light Dugan. And, we're going to be putting some cool shit together. We even discussed, making a knife called the Dugan. And making it in my head, it'd be like, we want your input, right? but in my head I just see something skinny and sharp, and we'll call it like
A little battle worn.
Yeah, battle worn, like color case hardened, like heat treated, and then we'll call it on one side it'll say the Dugan, and on the other side it'll say like the Jew edition or something.
No, we'll call it the T-zone, or what Dugan loves to say, cut your dicks off, so the dick cutter or the T-zone. That's my suggestion. I don't say
the cock slicer.
Yeah, something like that. All right,
but
Buffalo,
everybody
what did you
in chat, like, please give Matt a shout out, man. Like, he's putting so much work into this shit, even to make the hand scales alone. Like, he's doing a lot. So everyone give Matt a quick shout out and thank him. And one of you freaking DLDers are gonna win that shit. So we want to do things like this to contribute to you guys more often. Sorry.
One thing you could do, you've seen those like T-handle knives that are like the little stabby boys, where it's like
talking
about this.
Yeah. So like the T-handle knife that you grip the top of the T with your palm, and then the handle goes in between your middle finger and your ring finger, and then there's the knife, right? When you make the fist, that's what you could call a T-zone blade.
I like that. Yeah.
Hey, White Buffalo, you it sounded like you had something to ask before we went to comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to ask him, what do you do to unwind when you get home after a hard day of, like you said, pulling the body down from hanging themselves? Like, what do you do to unwind so you don't bring it home? Is there something you do in your car? Is there some prayer you say? Is there some drink that you sip on? Is there a cigarette, a certain type of cigar you smoke, or something? What do you do to unwind to keep everything separate?
I don't smoke. I don't really drink very much. And an unfortunate side effect of having kind of a disintegration of your personality is like I deleted Facebook. And this happened like 6 months ago. I got rid of Facebook. I think the only social media I have left is technically YouTube. And then I think I still have an Instagram, but it's not on my phone. So I haven't deleted the account. It's out there. But you don't, let's just say that 2020 was not good for my social life. I don't really, like I said, I don't smoke. I don't drink very much. I do enjoy coffee. And
I love coffee, brother.
If I have a really terrible day at work, I think I might come home and I might have like a cup of real coffee before I go to bed. If I come home from like a regular day of work, I usually go for decaf before bed. I don't really drink. I mean, I'll have a beer once in a while, but it's not. Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm working on the audio.
No, you're good. You're good.
Just popping a lot.
As far as unwinding, I mean, I used to go to the gym a lot, but then all the gyms closed. I mean, I spent a lot of time outside. I've still been shooting a little bit, putting one round of the mag and doing transition drills and manipulations. Being an AK guy, I've got a lot of steel case shenanigans tucked away. You know how that goes. Unfortunately, there hasn't really been much unwinding. Not lately, anyways.
I hear you.
I like to listen to a lot of Alan Watts, if you know who that is. He was a philosopher that.
Okay. Yes.
That communicate. If you know who Alan Watts is, then I don't have to say anything else. But he communicated a lot of like Eastern philosophy and religions to the West, not in the realm of this is what we should be doing, but in the realm of, in order to understand who you are, you have to understand somebody else, right? There is no self without other, and there is no other without self.
That's the only way you can gauge your progress, your success, or whatever it may be, is always viewing somebody else, which can be detrimental at times if you use it in the negative light. But if you're comparing yourself next to somebody that you want to achieve the same goals, same levels, or become better than, that can be a good thing. But, at the same time, people's perverse personalities and egos and subconsciouses will turn good philosophy into, like the Joneses kind of thing, competing against the Joneses. And it's not about competing against. It's about, if you see somebody in a better position than you, ask how to be able to get into that position. If somebody has better knowledge than you, try to get in that position. If you see somebody has a better mindset and can handle stress and, other things, try to emulate them. Try to, grow off of what you see them doing. And if you can't figure it out, the best thing you can do is ask. That legitimately is the best thing you can do. That's the one thing the military taught me, is the worst thing anybody can ever tell you is no. That's it. Hey, can you teach me how to have the same mindset so I'm not fucked up in my head and stressed out all the time? No. Okay, good. I need to find it somewhere else. I need to find it in myself or discover it, this or that. But, that's one thing I'm a big fan of, is asking. If you don't ask, you don't know if you can get an answer, yes or no, or information or knowledge. It is what it is.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no, right?
Yep.
And regarding ego, I have two sayings around ego. Number one, ego is not your amigo, because I've had to, fight my own challenges with ego. And number two, that ego is an acronym, and it stands for eliminating growth opportunities. And that's like my go-to. So I admire your lack of. Sorry, I'm getting zonal comments. I admire your limited ego.
So let's jump in these comments after Ivan says what he says, if that's cool with you, Ivan.
Ego, absolutely. Ego is like your radar, right? It's a development of a bundle of your perception and your projection onto the world based on your experience. If you're a ship, your ego is your radar. So why would you identify, if you're a ship, why would you identify with your radar any more than you would identify with your propeller, right?
Yeah.
Am I my foot? No. Why would I be my ego? An ego is a part of you. And so you are one whole thing, just like life is one whole thing. You need to be able to critically examine your emotional responses to things and critically examine what is perception and what is projection. And especially in stressful situations and challenging situations, and when you are coping with challenging situations. And you really need to be able to take a step back. When you're under stress, especially when you're under stress for long periods of time, cortisol builds up, damages, and oxidizes your limbic system, which is the emotional regulation pathway of the brain. And so if you go into a situation thinking I am always right, and that means that what I am feeling is always right, but it might not be. What you're feeling might be wrong. It might be the result of stress. It might be the result of other situational factors. You need to be able to, you're constantly being told who you are, and society tells you who you are is your ego, and that's not true at all. You need to take some time, and you need to figure out who you really are, which is an entire thing, not just one little piece of an entire thing.
I will
That'll
agree
help give you a better
100%
picture.
with you. Yeah, I'll agree 100% with you. Ego can be beneficial if you allow it to be used the correct way. Anger and fear, both of those can be beneficial, but those are short circumstances where they can be beneficial. typically on fight or flight. Anger and fear is better to motivate others, but to be able to focus on yourself and make better decisions, you need to get past your anger. You need to get past your fear. It's okay to have the butterflies and the fear in you, but at the same time, you need to be able to rationally think what your next move is going to be, what you can do next. Because there's been plenty of times where, you know, I've had fear and anger, and it had nothing to do with a life or death or bodily harm situation. It's just dealing with family life or my job or whatever it may be, just things in general. And a lot of times, fear and anger get the best of people, and people start making bad decisions, which starts downward spirals into even worse situations. So,
when you recognize the fear and anger in your decision making, you can begin to recognize the fear and anger in other people's decision making. And that can, as long as you're able to put it aside, that can allow you to help other people to put it aside, I apologize. And that will help you get the best outcome, the most peaceful outcome out of a violent situation.
I wholeheartedly agree, man. Dude, that was beautiful. That what you said was beautiful, man. I'm sorry I had to jump in, you know, and add to it, but that was fucking awesome. Other than that, and I'm sorry to end it like that, but I think we need to jump into these chats because we're getting a little bit long in the tooth.
Yeah,
and Dark is going to start
clubs.
posting chats on the screen for us to read.
No ego issue.
I'm awesome, Matt. Yes, you are, Matt. Yes, you are. You're a beautiful son of a bitch.
Oh, Matt, I know a little jujitsu, but not, nothing crazy, no leg locks, nothing.
So, Lobby, what did you mean?
You got to know your arm bars.
Yeah.
Arm bars are the way to go.
Mm-hmm. I don't like leg locks. I never got into that shit.
From these guys. Are you, Lobby Vabai, are you referring to like history, war archives from what? Tell me more. Dark. Never be afraid to fail. Never be afraid to ask. Yeah. I think we asked so long ago. I got to go further back. Guys, post your questions for the spring-loaded booty probe. It's a OTF spike. It's a sorry. I have to play with my hands. It's not a big
scared of that.
Okay, Ivan. What personality traits do you see that are indicators for a dangerous personality that can be translated to the real world and encounters there?
That's a
I would say,
question.
Yeah.
Ego or an unwillingness to listen and an insistence that they're always right. I run into a lot of issues with people who they're unable to accept that they're wrong. And instead of listening to the factual information, they talk over you about how they should be correct. And they're unable to accept the fact that just because what they're hearing isn't what they want to hear, that means it must be incorrect. And so that total unwillingness to listen, that's like the captain of the Titanic. You know what I mean? It's I'm unwilling to accept information that does not support my projection onto the world, and because of that, I will go into disaster. And I will refuse to acknowledge that it is disaster, even when I am in the disaster. And that can lead to some very bad things. That leads to really that leads to a lot
confrontation.
Of conflicts. Yes.
Now I'm gonna make a comment. I just want to know if you agree with it. If you run into somebody like that out in society, walk the fuck away.
Yes.
Don't keep it going. There's no point in trying to do verbal jujitsu. Fuck
the
it.
only
Not
reason
in high school. Walk
I
the
do
fuck
verbal
away.
judo is because they pay me to. If I had the
Yes.
option, I would tell that person, "Okay, you're right," and I would walk away.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no point in getting into an altercation over somebody that doesn't see your way and will never see your way. And there's no point in keeping it going, because the only thing that's going to happen from there is two people making bad decisions versus one person walking away. And if the other person decides that he wants to tag along and come after you, you protect yourself and you do what you have to do. Put it like this: I'm not opposed to running the fuck away from a situation, because I don't want to have to do anything to jeopardize my life, somebody else's life, or freedom. So if I might have to take a quick hot step away, it is what it is. I don't care. I'm not worried about my fucking ego or my bravado. And on top of it, there's plenty of times where I know the law won't be there and I'll get away with stupid shit if I have to put somebody in their place. But at the end of the day, that's not what I'm there to do.
The law is not on your side. The law is on the law's side.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
One piece of advice from each of the great guests, and one from the beautiful light and the lovely dark. I'm just kidding.
We'll start with you, Dark, because I'm looking at the thumbnails. You're top left, and then Buffalo, then Ivan, then me.
Okay, so from everyone, my greatest advice would be right now with everything.
Don't use a chicken bone to intravenously inject your drugs.
Yes, don't do that.
Don't do drugs. Stay in school.
Yeah. I don't know. I left school at 15. I'm doing all right. No. Here's what I would say. It's with everything that we discuss, with all the shit that we talk about, and the direction that we know that we are headed in, it's easy to take the black pill, right? And it can make you feel like sad, alone, and like, what is the purpose of fighting and exerting this much effort every day if I know what the end looks like? And a lot of people email us all the time saying, like, well, why don't I just eat my shotgun? And
that ain't worth
it. The shit's like sad, bro. But here's what I would say: when your life is about yourself, it may not feel like it has as much meaning. So here's my advice: live your life for the purpose of contributing to others. Like, find a way, a purpose, and it doesn't have to be like, silly, consumable shit. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be anything. What I would say is find a way to live a life of contribution, and it will open up your world. And even like for me, when I was at like my deepest and darkest place, when I opened up my hand to give, my hand was open to receive. And you'll see your life fall into place too. So contribute to others, knowledge, information, things, whatever you can, and prepare for what we're going into at the same time. Don't have like a level of naivety to that.
Amen. All right. My piece of advice: don't pick up a phone call with Joe Biden, because you can smell your kids on the other line, on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
But for real, be willing to change. Be willing to change, not just for yourself, but for others. A lot of times you don't even realize that people are depending on you. And sometimes I get random phone calls or conversations with friends and people I haven't seen in a while. Like, oh, you're doing good. You're doing good. I'm rooting for you. What the fuck are you talking about? You're rooting for me. You're, one of the few doing it, married, still with the same person, making a life, making just a lifestyle choice that, that I never had, that some people never had and they want. And I see I see a cousin of mine just got divorced and he just had a brand new beautiful baby girl and broke up the family on that. My brother, my younger brother, friggin' 2 kids, baby mother. She's a HOE. And he's struggling trying to make it work. And, and with change comes sacrifice too. And you got to sacrifice a lot. And, it's always, again, back to the ego thing. It's not always about yourself. And it's definitely about others too. And, you got to keep that mindset, just be willing to love and be willing to change for others. And it's not time yet to go cold hearted and start murking everybody and anybody. So Hopefully it never comes to that. Hopefully love will prevail. I believe it will. I'm a believer in Christ, and I just think that it's, change is needed and definitely, undervalued in today's time, especially for, what's going on and what we're going through.
Yeah. Amen.
Ivan, on you, brother.
No one said that things would be good forever. And no one said that things would always be good for you. This is a part of life. Everything that is and everything that was decays and falls apart. You, as a living being, you are tied to a body that is falling apart. But you get to experience the beauty of life if you allow yourself to. You can go outside into the snow. Everything's covered in snow. And I think that snow is beautiful. I smile every time I see it
That's my
because we
kind of
haven't had
situation.
snow like this in like 10 years. And I was cleaning off my car the other day, and it didn't feel annoying because I was just happy to see the snow.
Yeah.
And if you sit down in a field and look at a flower and allow yourself to smile, then you are experiencing the beauty of life. And you shouldn't allow yourself to be demoralized by something like an injury or a bad circumstance or where you are in life, because you are alive. And even though today may be a terrible day, even though today you may be witness to death or destruction or some horror beyond your comprehension, tomorrow it might snow and you can go outside and play in the snow. You cannot have good without bad. You can exclude nothing from life. It is all one thing. You cannot see birth without death. It is all one thing, and that one thing is life. So try not to take things so seriously. I mean, prepare so you won't be hungry. Understand that the pepper spray is going to hurt you. No one said that things were going to be good forever, and but they might be better soon.
Amen. I needed that. Thank you.
All right, so basically, what I have to say is kind of something that Dugan and me and Dark have touched on multiple times. Mainly Dugan, but I have the same view on this. Don't listen to what other people tell you to do. Figure it out for yourself. People can give you insight and knowledge, and you'll never use it in your life. Think about the things your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, whoever the fuck told you when you were younger on how to do this and this and this and that, and you didn't want to believe them. End of the day, we're not asking you to believe shit that we say. We're not asking, for you to follow us and all these other things. All we ask is that you open up your own damn eyes and you figure out things for yourself, because it's not anybody else that's going to tell you what to do or how to think. Go to church. They'll tell you what to think and how to do it. Go to work for a government organization. Do everything else under the sun. They'll tell you what to do and what to think. It's not about that. It's about what you see, what you think, what you do. And the other thing that I keep on telling people who are conspiracy theorists that are allowing, the media, social media, everything to be able to boil up inside them and cause agony and pain, that is called a psyop. It doesn't matter how many things are true or false. At the end of the day, what it is a distraction from you bettering yourself and helping improve your own family. When the power goes out, when the water stops running, when you stop having cell phone signal and you stop having radio reception, then you can go into whatever apocalyptic mode that you want to think about it. I don't give a crap. But it's about helping each other and also about you figuring out for your damn self. Nobody's going to teach you. Nobody's going to tell you. We will try to help you out. We'll try to show you things. And there's plenty of other things on YouTube where you can learn and do these things that we talk about. But it's about you. You make your own first step. That is it. Nobody fucking else. It is what it is. And if you can't do that and you can't get past your own fucking insecurities, or you think you're not this or that, you're not worth it, oh, I can't do this, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Start digging a hole for yourself. Even if it never happens, just start digging a hole for yourself, because you're not worth your own time or anybody else's time. You're not there to help yourself or others around you. And that's what you need to be there for. Helping yourself and helping others. If you have a family, I fucking pray to God you already have this start boiling up inside of you where you know you're going to help your family no matter what. So start taking steps. It's not that hard. That's all I had to say. Any more comments, or are we going to finish it off there? Because I kind of feel like that was like a somber ass ending.
I'm reading some stuff.
No, I think it was good.
Doug says Dark get another fun dip now.
Yeah, no, I saw that. I shouldn't. I shan't. No, I think that's it, man. Guys,
Dark does not need another fun dip. He's about to be a diabetic. Stop it.
Oh,
no,
shit.
Right? Jesus, if you only knew about the flurries.
I thought all the McFlurry machines were broken.
Every time I pull up.
Not in Dark's area. Dark personally paid to get those things back up and running. They run to 4 o'clock in the morning versus 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I thought it was midnight.
Yeah.
I just want to thank all. Yeah, I just want to thank all you guys for coming and listening, and just you guys are awesome. This is a great community. Our guests, you guys are great. We're going to be having White Buffalo on, more frequently. And
Rando, you're right. Who the hell has the cat in the room with the bell? I hear a bell chiming.
I'm outside. Hold on.
I don't think that's what it is. I think it's something else.
Oh, okay.
Squeaky wheel.
Squeaky wheel gets a 762.
It was Buffalo.
No, he gets a 545.
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't. Oh well. Regardless of who it is, my bad. I needed you to see.
Okay.
I just want to thank all you guys. You guys are awesome. Great community. We got a lot of cool things coming up. We got a really fucking incredible guest coming up on Saturday and on Tuesday.
Any hints?
Tuesday's gonna be a doozy, man. And the beginning of March, we got a huge gun tuber that's gonna be on with us. Like, you guys are gonna be ready to J him. It may be a girl. It may be a girl.
Hey, Dark. Got a question. Do you want to ask White Buffalo to do the honors for our guest? Does he know the honors?
White Buffalo, do you know what we do at the very end of all of our episodes?
Name in the stream.
Well, you can
Not you.
Yes.
Not you.
Ask Ivan to
Yep, there you go. You got it. But you got to explain it to him, though.
So, Ivan, so at the end of all these streams, you got to surmise, basically, just a catchy name to summarize everything and just put it out there for the thumbnail. Correct? That's the gist of it.
The name of the stream or the live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's call this one the Chicken Shank Redemption, since Stark was talking about making a shank at a chicken to do drugs with.
I love
That's
it. Hey,
awesome.
one thing I always like to bring up is we threw Cody Wilson on the spot, and he said, "Ah, shit, fuck." And guess what the name of his podcast was? We were
No
like, "No,
kidding.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I
That's
remember that
good.
one.
Shit, fuck.
That's good. Don't even worry about coming up with anything else. Shit, fuck. We're good."
Yep. No, that's
Chicken
perfect.
Shank Redemption. I like that.
Chicken Shank Redemption. That may be our best one to date. No, Ivan, thank you for coming on. White Buffalo, thank you for coming on, and for all you guys asking about the rainbow
Oh, the
bill.
chameleon.
Let's see. So, oh no, you see the guide rod. You see the barrel.
Kind of see a little chameleon, a little bit. Bad lighting.
It's hard to
Hey,
see in the light.
that looks
You
like a
see the,
Glock.
You see the rose gold extractor.
That's a 1911. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Kind of nice right there. Hey.
Rose gold chameleon pins. Check out the magazine release right there. The rose gold right there. The pins. Sorry, the camera and lighting sucks. All the pins are chameleon. The back of the slide is chameleon. This motherfucker is sick. So
It's pretty dope.
Hey,
I want to find
ladies
time
and
where I
gentlemen,
can actually
can everybody
show
hear
it
me?
off. Nope.
Can you? Okay.
Yeah.
I just lost my connection with my earbuds. Just giving everybody heads up. There was a whole bunch of people that I was supposed to have scheduled up, and I don't know if you guys are still listening or not. I apologize. My own family, personal issues, New Year's, election, a whole bunch of crazy stuff in the mix. I apologize. Please, if you guys are still interested, reach back out to me. Me and Dark are starting up a actual calendar when we can get people on, and we're gonna go from there. And we're actually gonna start locking people in. I've been in a little funk myself, so I've just kind of not been taking anybody calls or barely replying to emails lately. I apologize about that, but
He barely even talks to me, guys. It's borderline offensive.
yeah.
Cliff, I'm going to repeat a quote that I heard once. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Man suffers because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun.
The gods
Like
did
it.
not make my wife.
I'm done.
That was great.
Hey, but guys, remember, man, we're on this rock together. Let's make the best of it for each other, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
man. Contribution.
We're here for each other. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's all love, and we don't want to see anybody hurting each other or anybody else. So,
And I like this
try to
stream, man.
make
This
the
is a
world
cool
that
little
we
cast
want.
you guys got going on.
Yeah,
It's a cool little setup.
This was interesting. It was a good little switch up from our norm, and a lot of the stuff that we discussed still applies, to our message. So, thank you guys. And just know we're not going to come on. We're not going to monetize. We're not going to ask for money. We're not like anything like the knives and shit. Like they're donated by people that are part of the community. So we appreciate what you guys do, and we're not doing this for anything but to spread the message to become independent. That's it. We appreciate you guys. We love all y'all.
Quick thought. You said that you're into that World Corp thing, right?
Wild Corp, yeah.
Wild Corp. There you go. What about doing monetizing this stream if it gets bigger eventually, and then using all those profits to buy land and start using that, or is that not an option? You know what I mean?
We've actually talked.
Yeah.
No, we've actually talked about that, and that will be something like we might start up a Patreon, but literally we will have a mission statement, and we'll show exactly where the money goes. It's not going to go for a salary or consulting fees or anything else like that. But whenever we can get everybody together with the board for Wildcore, and I can, even if I never become a part of the board or anything else like that, I'm still going to advocate. But it is one of those things where we will possibly reach out and ask for donations. whether private land or I will start trying to find USDA and federal loans for agricultural purposes. So, no money has to come out of anybody. But if anybody, or if we ever ask for money, it will literally have a mission statement and show every nickel and dime and where that went to. It's not going to any type of CEO, board members, this or that. Is legitimate about the future and us getting the future rolling the best we can.
Yeah, and like salary. Just kidding. No, all jokes aside.
You're making me go to truck stops and give HJs to freaking truckers to be able to help pay your salary. What salary am I talking about?
Were they truckers? I didn't know.
I think you thought
I
the
don't know.
HJs were
Any-
like a bonus on your part.
Hey,
Yeah.
anybody willing, I gotcha. So, love y'all, man. Deuces.
All right.
Be safe.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys.
I'm out, y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank God he's gone.
Good night, fellas.
Now we can finally talk.
I mean, we could talk about AKs, I guess, but we've been here for 2 hours and 35 minutes.
I know, man. AKs are great. Buy them. Get them in 7.62x39. If you make a mistake like I did and get one in 5.56, that's okay. Only use Circle 10
That's
mags.
fucked up. I'm an AR man. I don't know nothing about the AKs.
Oh, man.
5.45 is the way to go if you bought a bunch of ammo like a year ago or more. If not, 5.56 or 7.62 is the way to go.
Hell yeah. I got a whole grip load of some steel just sitting around. Oh, and get other guns that can run steel too. Like and keep your ammo inventory.
Oh, if she don't run steel, she don't deserve brass.
Right? Yeah, man. All right.
Just guys.
We'll end it on this. All right, y'all. Run guns with rivets. Peace. Oh, Ivan, what does your name mean? The one you typed in. Oh, damn it.
It was some Russian shit.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, y'all. Peace.
All right.